whoever is tuned to us, watching us on StarTimes channel 477, on Zuku, that is on channel 0073, and Azam, the frequency number is 369, and happen to be alone. But, of course, with Oracle Benson Pastore, where I will be asking him on a lot of issues. But first thing first, Benson, you're most welcome, as Uganda Cranes did qualify yesterday for the AFCON with 2 games to go. What do you say about this, as we get to also really see what we are going to be discussing this morning, just as an insight?
Exactly, that is where we are going to kickstart our highlights, but the discussion part of it will come towards the closing stages of the so-called. We are all aware that the last segment is actually for sports, in fact towards the end, but it cannot stop us from highlighting what we are going to give you. In fact, you have already given it. Uganda Cranes this time a different team, because this is a country that has been known of disappointing the citizens. For us, we call ourselves citizens now.
Fans.
Not fans.
Okay. But we have Sudanese who support Ugandans. Because somebody was able to tell me yesterday that Uganda Cranes didn't qualify just because of the efforts of the neighbors.
Okay, those ones are fans, but we, the people within the country, we are the citizens. Yeah.
Anyways, more of that discussion will be coming through in our sports segment. That is towards the end of the show. But first things first, Benson, yesterday we did see the Pope Kisoro deciding where an independent candidate in the names of Ngabirano Kifeza was able to win the Kisoro District Women Member Parliament by-election. And that is something which we did see, where Miss Grace Ngabirano Kifeza was declared the winner of the Kisoro District Women Member Parliament by-election after beating 5 other contestants. And Miss Ngabirano, that is also an independent candidate, went on also really to beat the NRM flag bearer, whom she lost in the primaries, where she was able to beat, that is Miss Rose Kabagenyi, who garnered 50,459 votes. And that is exactly what we did see. And her closest opponent, Miss Kabagenyi, was also the official NRM flag bearer, who was able to scoop, that is 44,982. And this is something which I want to also really say the numbers. Indeed, we are very, very much few. And the voter turnout, of course, was very low. And I will be asking you later on what, and maybe what, on some of those strategies that you feel we can't be able to use, that is to avoid the issues of low voter turnout. Because if you look at the issue of voter turnout, Benson, it is something that is happening where in elections, people are no longer voting. People no longer turn around for votes. But that is exactly what we did see in Kisoro. And the closest opponent to Ms. Kabagenyi was the official NRM flag bearer, who was able to gather. Other candidates also included, that is Uganda Post Congress, Mebo Ngabire, who scored, that is 362 votes. Forum for Democratic Change, Juliet Musa Nanse, who was able to garner, that is 193 votes. Meanwhile, the People's Progressive Party candidate, Aisha Chimpaye, was also the one who trailed, who got 157 votes. And that is how the election also did go on in there. And somebody will be asking, what really caused this low voter turnout? And how can we be able to end the voter turnout as we are still moving on? Because at the time, Benson, we have not also conducted the constitutional amendments. We have not also had what we call the reforms, because many people have been advocating for these reforms. I will be telling you what are some of those changes that you feel must be addressed. And you will be also sharing your thoughts as well, to let us know on some of those changes that you feel will be able to make the voting process a bit transparent. But first thing first, the money factor.
First of all, if you take a look at the process of voting, it's not just like you pick in a hole and you go for garden work. There are some stages, of course, you will have to undergo for you to become as a voter, like the issues of voters registration, something of that kind. There are so many of them. But you look at this particular period when the voting took place. Right now, people's minds not all about voting, because they know that the specific period for voting is yet coming.
Maybe that's that people are no longer interested in voting. Because if you look at this by-election, it's coming at a time where we are counting less than 14 months to the next general election.
No, it's not all about that.
I believe there's something that is also that is signaling ahead of 2006.
Okay, let me go one by one. First of all, talking about the other sector of by-election. Right now, yeah, it was by-election. If it was like the general election, whereby people are aware that, okay, this is the period for election, or this is the period for voting, I know the turnout was going to be a little bit higher than the expectation that has already been released. But this one coming abruptly, and sometimes This is what I've been observing.
Okay.
When it is the period of voting, sometimes people who are not within the village, who are not within the parish, who had been maybe residing outside, they come back. They know that it is the
But
period.
of course, so many things could have contributed to the elections in Kisoro and the Mateke factor, because this lady who won is actually a close relative also to the minister Mateke who passed on, and this is where with this now the Kisoro district. As it fell vacant, that is on September 7th of this year, after the death of Sarah Mateke, who also that was the State Minister for Defense and Veteran Affairs, who passed on, and this is where we were able to see her be replaced by a relative. Now, somebody may be asking, how could the NRM flag bearer lose to an independent candidate leaning to NRM? Because this lady lost in the party primaries, but felt something could have gone wrong. And yesterday I was able to really see an interview of one of those candidates who also lost, also really what we call the party primaries, and emerged victorious at the general election. And that it means also really something wrong could be going elsewhere. But when you see her father, that is Philemon Mateke, a member of the NRM and former minister, was able to also really back, that is Akifeza, and in analyzing the political landscape of Kisoro during the Woman Member of Parliament by-election, the district chairman, that is Mr. Abel Bazimana, I told the journalists that also supporters also had become sharply divided along religious and also tribal lines. And this is exactly what we did see the president, while NRM flag bearer actually won on, and they won the locals against what we call tribal and politics of religion.
First, one thing may I understand.
Contributed to the elections, and that is also something maybe somebody may be asking.
Me, what I understand very well is the politics is like a game of sports. You fail here, after you fail it, you go and strategize yourself. Yeah, you strategize yourself for the next fixer. That is what I have so far observed in politics. Losing the other one and coming victorious. We have seen like politicians, they at first lose, they emerge as losers, but afterwards they have to strategize themselves and they emerge victorious. It depends on how, of course, you re-strategize yourself, how, of course, you are going to reconstruct yourself like after failing. Because once you fail like this, you go back to the drawing board. Why have I failed? What were some of the weaknesses? What were some of the challenges I encountered that made me to fail? So that one, I think, the person who has emerged as victorious, of course, went down on the board, on the drawing board, was able to reconstruct herself, and that is the reason as to why, of course, we have seen her this time emerging victorious.
Okay, somebody will be asking, what could have this indicated, and what does this indication show of the NRM, most especially in Kisoro, because the seat was initially occupied by NRM candidate, but this time round we are having an independent candidate, but NRM leaning. What does this speak about the divisions within the party? Because at one time we were able to see some of those leaders leaning with this lady. The vice chairperson of NRM that side was able to rally support. That is for an independent candidate. And the president moved in there campaigning for the party flag bearer, just like how the rest of the political party also heads were doing. What does that speak of maybe the NRM in that area when it comes to support? Could it be true that the issues of accusations when it comes to malpractice were common? Because the lady, after losing to the party primaries, came out to say that her votes were rigged. And she never accepted the results. And that's why she chose to come up as an independent.
You see, first, one thing I've also been observing is when it comes to the period of voting elections like this, more especially when it is now at the panel where they are releasing the results. In most cases, some of these politicians, they are not satisfied of what is on the table. Sometimes, like you have said, they say, oh, my votes were not counted properly, my votes have been rigged. But at the end, you see, politics is not an easy game. Based on the question you have just generated to me, I think, you know, everyone has got that political right, and you have a right to follow the party you want. Today you may see Nup floating on the water. Next time you will see NRM coming on the water. There will also come a time you will see DP. So me, I'm not surprised if like the other party is going down, the other one is coming. It all depends on how, of course, you end up reconstructing yourself and you end up how to campaign, how you actually you build your party. Because if you just leave it because it's already there, it has been formed, of course, it has to keep on constructing itself. At the end, you will think that it is still at the peak, while actually it's sloping down. It depends on how you keep yourself in the game.
Okay, that is quite true, and that is one issue that we did see also really happening in there. Now, Benson, this brings me to the question of constitutional and electoral reforms. We have not had any changes. Let's talk about the issues of monetization of politics, which many people have been talking that should be bad, because this has put away so many potential candidates from vying in these positions. First of all, let's talk about the youth. If at all we are to engage the youth in elections, Benson, do you think people will vote for you? Given the fact that you know your pockets.
First of all, if you take a look at the number of voters, know that every person who is 18 and above, because according to the law of Constitution of Uganda, the person who is 18 and above is already is a youth, and an adult afterwards becomes an adult and is capable of voting. But not that every person at that age category is going to vote. And there are some people who have in that mindset that for them they cannot vote. Others even in their 40s, and they are saying that they have never voted in their life, and they even don't know how to vote. And now you look at the entire population of the country, you look at the youths, you look at the women, and you look at the men. You look at you look at these three categories. Where does the voting come most from? Is it from the youths? Is it from the men? Is it from the women? And of course, if the country, if the technical team, they can be able to analyze.
Let's look at it in this way. The issues of monetization of elections, because we are now counting down less than 14 months to the next general elections, but we have not had the reforms. Many people have been pushing for this. First of all, in line to the reforms, proposals have already been underway. First of all, to stop the issues of monetization of politics, whereby as an aspiring candidate, you're not supposed to give the voters money. That is on the side of those who are aspiring for this position. But on the side of electoral commission, Benson, to aspire as a member of parliament, you are required to pay at least 5 million. Then those who are vying for those positions of special interest, for instance, the PWDs, there is a huge amount that you are supposed to also pay of 3 million. How many PWDs do you think have this money? How many youths do you think have this 5 million that also is required for them to aspire for such positions? And this is where I feel we needed these reforms yesterday, because we are now edging down. We are closing down the days to the next elections. But the question is, how many people are going to be pushed off as a result of not having this amount of money? And that is where, Benson, we also need to turn off bro, because, Benson, I may be interested in aspiring as a member of parliament. Of course, I do not have that also at the moment. But I know myself, I don't have the money. And we have also monetized our politics in a way that by the time you're going to Ghana to talk to, the list is moving down. It means people will expect something small, what we call ambadudiri, because you're not going to be sitting people down and also live like that. As you are talking to them, the list is already moving on. By the end of your speech, you are presented a name of list which sometimes are very much inflated. At the end of the day, you have to give them something small. You have to leave something, and that is where and how far we have reached with our politics. And definitely that has an impact. What impact does that have on the quality of leaders that we bring on board? And what does that also bring on board when it comes to service delivery?
You see, there are so many sectors in politics. There are politics at the lower level, and there are some politics in the middle, and then there are some politics at the upper level. Then I will say it depends on how deep and how, of course, wet your pocket is. There are some positions in politics that are for middle class, but there are some positions that are for poor people, I should say, just to be open, that is for poor people. Now, coming up with so many suggestions, so many political reforms that, for you to aspire as a area member of parliament, you need to pay something of 5 million. For people with a disability, you need to pay 3 million. What does this one mean? It means the political rights of people here, they have been violated to some extent. Because, like for a person, like you have said, someone might be having the knowledge, someone might be having the skills of driving a population of a certain area, because the person is not having that money, that is where it dies. That is the reason as to why sometimes politics without money cannot work out for you. Like you have said, you cannot sit people at the end when you are departing them. You can't depart them with nothing. So some of these reforms, I think the Constitution, of course, will have to sit down and amend them such that we can be able to go with the right leaders. Not that every leader...
Based on these electoral reforms, we needed them yesterday. First of all, I've been having overtime issues when it comes to qualifications. Benson, do you know some of these positions do not have marks restrictions?
Exactly.
First of all, to become a councillor, you only need the national ID. You don't even need academic qualifications. But the people you're going to be supervising, the people you're going to be leading, might be PhD holders, might be master's degree holders, must be degree holders, might be diploma holders. And here you come without any academic qualification because it is not restricted.
Let me interject a bit about the point you have brought. Like you are a councillor, you are representing your area as you are...
And you're going to be supervising engineers who are degree holders.
Maybe you stopped in P7 and even you leave aside the issue of supervision and people with whom you are going to sit in the council. First of all, you will just be despising yourself because you first look at your level, where you stop, and your dressing code, everything, the English you speak. Obviously, you cannot be able to represent yourself, represent the people, the area people you are leading. So at the end, of course, you become paralyzed in everything. So, like the issue of our academic qualifications, I think this one, of course, will have to be vital because...
Right. Should it be only for the councillors or from the top?
No,
because to become a parliament person at the moment, only senior 6. To become a member of parliament, you are only required to have a senior 6 paper. Is it enough? Is it worth it?
It must cut across. But to me, this is my own suggestion. To me, for a person to aspire in that position of member of parliament, I think, to me, the person at least will have undergone some leadership skills.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
So besides the academic qualification, you must also really have... but I think this is how I need to also have it. Having academic qualification is quite key. Because Benson at the moment, imagine, as a mayor, you have somebody who did not go to class, who does not understand the laws, who does not understand the principles.
So to me, these are the...
Because right from the councils, right from the mayorship positions, would not have enough restrictions. This is my own opinion. As an individual, I feel there's more that needs to be done. We need to also have these reforms so that really people get to also really weigh on.
I think if I am to be government, the best thing I do is, first of all, academic qualification.
But why?
Look because at the second thing is, of course, the leadership skills. You cannot just jump from zero. You have not even been LC1, you have not been even LC2, not even a councillor, and you want to aspire as a area member of parliament. Of course, will you really be having that capability of leading your people? Can you be able to represent yourself? If not, you may be bypassing those other lower rank leadership sectors. At least you should be someone who might have undergone leadership training or leadership skills such that you can be able to lead your people very well. You know, it doesn't mean that academic can sort out rather everything. There are some key things, of course, you first have to handle before. You know, being a leader is not just you come, you talk, you come, you talk. Sometimes what you talk matters. As you had said, there are some people who, of course, knows better than you.
Yes.
Yeah, truly.
Of course, sometimes, yes, we have had people who not go to school, but they are better leaders. But in this era, I want to say the number is a bit very much minimal because if I know that I am more educated than you, there is a way I'm going to be despising you.
True.
Even if you're richer than me. And that is quite true, and that is exactly what's happening. And that is why we need these reforms to also come on board. But we are yet counting down the days. You never know, tomorrow, Electoral Commission may come up with these reforms and announce them to the people. But as per now, there's not yet any way that we are having the reforms. But rather, the roadmap is being developed. And we hope at the end of the day, that people also really get to interest themselves in what is happening within the electoral sector. Because Benson to mention, you will find out that really sometimes people are not engaged in these elections because they do not have voter education. How empowered you, how empowered are you when it comes to issues of elections? Just like you, because you will be able to also use that to test yourself in relation to that mama who is in the village, who does not have any knowledge.
True.
How empowered are you when it comes to voter education?
First, I've been into villages. There are some people who are willing to vote, but there's some restrictions. First of all, before the period of voting itself, there are so many activities. I think we discussed about this one when we actually had the initial stages of the topic. There are some stages, of course, you will have to undergo voters register, update. So many things. There are some people who will really want to vote, but because of those restrictions, they cannot be able to do it. And also, of late, it is a must that unless you have the national ID of the country, that's when you are capable of voting. And there are some people who are willing to elect their leaders, the best leaders, but because they don't have the national IDs, that's where they are restricted.
Most especially the youths.
Others have taken, but it is taking long. Like there's a colleague of mine who took and it has stayed more than 2 years. And also, there are some IDs which are invalid. They are there just as a picture. When you want to process things using them, they cannot work out. I think these are some of the reasons as to why we are seeing a low turnout of voters, because first of all, when you cannot be able to comply with all the requirements, of course you cannot do it.
Okay, that is exactly what we are pushing out for, but we hope the responsible officers will come out and also tell us on when we shall be having these reforms. So not only the people whom also they will be also voting for the leaders they are going to be leading get to understand also these reforms, so that they vote also wisely, because if at all we are not also going to be voting, because at the same time, Benson, really there's something which also emerged. Somebody also was able to speak about this, the issues of vote education. At the moment, it is just a matter of saying, vote this symbol. That is how to identify the candidates, and that is the level at which we have reached. Vote the symbol. It could be a jerrycan, vote the jerrycan. It could be a court, vote the court, but not voting individuals. And that is exactly what is causing problems in terms of leadership types that we are having in some areas. How do you think we can be able to address this issue?
First of all, the good thing is we still have got a very long way to go. Not just we only left with a year plus some months, but I can say just a year and 2 months, I should say. But still, public can be sensitized about this. And of course, you can still be able to reform people, change the mindset of people. You gather people, community barazas, you organize, and you educate people about voting. Like you said, there are some people who don't have knowledge about voting, campaigns, what. Their work is just, they come at that period of votings, and they don't know
even know the candidate.
Even they don't know the candidate, and it's people actually instruct them based on their interests. So this is the right time for people. You know, first, another challenge I've been observing is some of these people, representatives, they don't actually rate at the extreme end. What am I trying to say here? Deep in the villages. Yeah, they are working, but they don't cover all these areas. So the only thing, of course, more especially for people with disability, or maybe for youths who are not exposed, and also for illiterate people, of course, there has to be some people who are supposed to be employed to reach deep to those people so that they can be sensitized about the upcoming campaigns and elections. Not that you do it with the people who are literate, who are exposed, and those ones. You know, when it comes to voting, everyone has a right. There is no any other way you will say that, for you, you are a person with disability, for you, you have just made 18, for you, you are deep from the village. No, if you had been only doing it with the people who are exposed, who are literate, and who are next to you, and those who are deep from the village, they don't understand the process. Of course, at the end, everything becomes a mess. And even during the period of the votings, they may not even come. Like for women, they may decide to go to market, others may go to for garden work. But when you take the information deep to the village, of course, everyone will be aware of what is coming ahead of them.
Okay. Benson, as we are getting to move on, remember so many stories going to happen, and this weekend also really I want to say it is coming close. We are going to be having a number of activities where the runs, where we also have charity, also fundraising drives, all this will be happening also over the weekend, but of course we shall be touching on that later on. I don't want to say, Benson, there's a lot more happening in the country. There's really indeed a lot that is happening, but all in all, let's see how best we can also unfold on some of those issues that were happening in the country. And in Langos sub-region, we did see the Prime Minister resigning, citing rot in the cultural institution. Benson, this is something which we are seeing. Maybe, what do you think could be happening within the cultural institutions? Because many of the times today we are having issues. people are not happy. It seems people are not happy with also what's happening within the cultural institutions. Could it be any factor?
With my little knowledge, you know, some of these cultural institutions, they have been having that gap with the government. Like there are some cultural leaders that cannot sit in a round table with some of the representatives of the government. There are some things in culture, in some of these cultural institutions, they may want it to be done in a different way, but because of the laws of the government, government will want it to go the other way. And some of those things, of course, they are bringing a lot of misunderstanding.
Okay, remember, Benson, we were earlier on witnessing also the days being bridged because we were heading towards the coronation of the paramount chief-elect who was already elected, but one of the parties felt unhappy and rushed to court, and that is where the elections were annulled by the High Court. But this did not also go well with some people, and this is where we also did see the judge who made this also the final verdict, also receiving death threats. And that is exactly what we did see happening in there.
And also, Faris, I don't know if you have observed, if you have been observing, to me, there is no much bond between the government and the cultural institutions. Government feels cultural institution cultural institutions, of course.
It is the same government that also restored this. Because if you look at the Obote government, it barred the cultural institutions. It is the Museveni regime that had to restore operations of these cultural institutions. And that is exactly what we did see happening, Benson. And we hope at the end of the day that this also will bring something tangible. And if you look at the issues, most of especially the conflicts within the cultural institutions, you realize it is happening in most of the cultural institutions.
True.
Right now, I wouldn't mention names, I wouldn't want to mention names, but you realize that people are fighting for these positions. Why must people be fighting for positions of culture? Could it be that there is now monetary benefit that has been also brought in? Because yes, that is the truth, that the cultural institutions are receiving money. Some of them are also set to receive the money, most especially those who have not started receiving the funds. And this from government also really help in running the activities. Could that be the reason as to why we are witnessing?
By the way, also, one funny thing which might also yield fruit is when I attended one of the things for the cultural institutions, there was a concern they raised that at least, if possible, government, of course, has to be in a position to at least nominate one member of parliament representing each cultural institution, each tribe into parliament.
And this was the minority group who feel they have not been represented well. First of all, we have the minority groups in Benson, West Nile, like the Nubi, we have the Kuku, we have the Kebu, we have the Lendu, who feel they need representation.
So that we are like, of course, there has to be also some leaders like area member of parliament that, of course, will have to, that can be able to speak on their behalf on the floor of the parliament. And we don't know if this one, of course, will yield fruit. We are still waiting. What we are actually trying to advocate for is there has to be that bond between government and cultural institutions, because without government, cultural institutions, of course, they cannot exist. If they exist, of course, they will be doing nothing. And also without the cultural institutions, I think government is having challenges. What we are advocating for is to eliminate the fight between the government and the cultural institutions.
That's not really, this fight is not coming from the government. It is coming within the people of the same cultural institutions.
Yes.
It's what more of also really what we call internal fights. I want to call it internal fights within the tribes.
Do you know why this is happening?
Because Benson, people want to also have these positions. That is the truth. People want to also be to those positions. And sometimes people feel unhappy.
I am looking at the two aspects here. First of all, like you have said, the issue of positions, people also want to enjoy it. Second thing is also some of the uncalled for amendments. You see, and sometimes, anytime government, of course, comes up with a strategy, let this one be done like this. And yet in culture, this is something which has not been there before.
Okay.
And these people, they are feeling that they are actually disrupting their culture.
That is where we are now seeing the Lango Cultural Foundation Prime Minister, that is Engineer James Ajal Robert, has resigned and citing a rot in the institution, among other several issues, which has been affecting his operations. And that is exactly what we did see the man also already coming out to solely speak out on. Ajal also indicated that his departure is occasioned by the institution's failure to facilitate chiefdom activities, and that is where he feels he cannot be able to do work without being facilitated. Now, since last year, Lam Cultural Institution has also been rocked by a major leadership dispute that saw High Court also really annul the separate election of two rival paramount chiefs on October 31st. And that is exactly what we did see, and where we were able to see High Court passing a directive also really to annul the election, that's of the Wonyasi, and to reinstate one of those leaders solely to sit as solely, he becomes again the leader of the Lango Cultural Institution. That is what exactly we did see. And according to him, Council of Owitong later sympathized with Ajal, allowing him to continue working as Prime Minister to make the cultural institution functional. And Benson, you read that a lot of issues continue to happen within the cultural institution. Just the next 30 seconds, what do you have to say about this?
The only thing I want to say in summary is this is just a piece of advice. Is it
good for people to be residing, leaving their position after citing also the issues?
I don't
or we can be able to sit on the round table?
I don't think that is the case, like resigning just like that. That's not the case. It's not going to sort out things. Because once you resign, you leave a gap. And whom do you think will come and fill the gap you have left? Matters there might be someone there, but at least you have been in the movie.
Right, Benson, we shall be having more of the discussion later on in our second hour, but for now, we take a short commercial break. We bounce back shortly.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, the team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and limited passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are back into the second hour of the show. 5 minutes already, and Benson, it is a chilly weather outside. You can be able to solely see that we may have some showers in the due course of the day, and that means climate change is actually real, because at the time we are thinking of dry season, yesterday I was interacting with somebody and the person was like, now dry season has come back. But today we are seeing again chilly weather.
These days what I know is like in the last 3 to 4 years, it has been so unpredictable. The moment you expect rain, it's not there. But when you're expecting sunshine, that's when it's raining. That means the climate has really changed. And why is it happening is one thing, of course, people will have to understand. And once it is understood, they should not just understand it, but they should be able to, like if it is in a negative way, there should be in person to generate the solutions of how they can be able to overcome its negativity. So that is what I can say about the
exactly. That is of course what we are counting down, and what we also want to see possibly to be able to sort of understand, because at the moment we are having the grasshopper period. Many people are attributing the changes to climate change because they say the moon came out, grasshopper disappeared. It means that climate change is not only affecting the farmers, it's also affecting the vendors of grasshoppers as well.
What sounds funny is when they are saying that after the moon coming out, the grasshopper
disappeared.
Who told them? So, so these are funny comments. You know, of ours, sometimes fun is also there. So it's the comment.
You find out, Benson, it is the comment. Exactly, that's what people are saying. Most especially the vendors. They are attributing the disappearance. But most of them still have hope, and I want to say they shouldn't give up, because those who have invested in having the iron sheets, in having the lights, after one day of catch, it's not enough. We are still saying, remain hopeful, let's keep on lighting up the generators, let's keep up on wiring also our lights. We never know.
The only consolation them is soon the moon is going down, grasshoppers are getting back. But so the days are running, because the month of grasshopper is always the month of, that's November, so we are praying that soon moon is going down and the grasshopper.
A lot is happening within the country, and when it comes to issues of climate change, definitely we must join hands and also talk about it, because climate change is indeed not only a dream, but it's the reality on ground. And today, many people are already making harvests, most especially those who plant cassava, but many of them are still complaining about climate change also affecting their produce. But all in all, let's remain hopeful. Let's continue doing our best in terms of making sure that we get whatever we want to achieve. And that is where, at the end of the day, Benson, we shall be seeing also all this happening. And when the right time comes, definitely we shall be seeing implication of this climate change going. But it also goes back to us, first of all, to use some practices that also really affect the climate. First of all, in relation to issues of planting down trees and issues also that have been affecting the environment. Let's this from all, and that is where exactly we shall be seeing the issues of climate change also going down. And in most cases, if you interact with people, they will tell you climate change is indeed the reality, and we have partly contributed to this.
First, one thing me I've also failed to understand is the climate change has been attributed
cutting down trees,
deforestation. But there is one thing I'm also looking at. I think overpopulation might be one of it.
Definitely.
Overpopulation.
Because when the population increases, Benson, this is the mathematics. Once the population increases, people need areas to settle. Areas initially where there were no houses, for instance, forests. Today, people have sold down the areas. People have cut down the trees to settle down. The owners of these lands have decided to build houses because the demand is there now. Now we are becoming an urban center, most especially in a rural city. We are becoming a city where the population is increasing, and each and every day the numbers keep on rising. Definitely, all these people need houses. Where are they going to be settling?
Now, here comes the point. Yeah, we are all attributing this one to deforestation, what people should continue planting trees. If the population keeps on growing,
now what should people do? Now, it goes back to what should people do? Should they stop producing
So that is the question.
That is to you. Should they stop producing? Because as we are talking right now,
I think
babies are being born.
People, of course, will have to now control family planning. Of course, will have to, because there is no any other way you are going to say that we will plant trees when there are no places for settlement, construction. So the only solution is people can produce, but there has to be a certain specific number of kids you are supposed to produce, more especially for us who are still teenagers.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we are advocating for. And today, based on just to add on what you're saying, on issues of teenage pregnancy, indeed the numbers are also said to be increasing. Everywhere you move, most especially in the rural areas, you find out that women of below the age of 18 years, these are girls actually, who are producing, who are mothers. And at the end of the day, we are seeing them also becoming vulnerable to the challenges also of early marriages and early pregnancy, most especially also in the rural areas where they are being abandoned. And that also goes back to us to continue sensitizing our daughters and our young also sisters to also these from those practices. And that is how at the end of the day, we shall be seeing them also be spared from the hyenas who also take advantage of them. And that is also sometimes where the young children are also the ones taking advantage of themselves. It means as parents, let's also continue talking to our boy child. Because in most cases the campaign is targeting the girl child, neglecting the boy child. And this is where it becomes a challenge, because Benson, in most cases, the boy child is left vulnerable.
It's true.
Yesterday I was interacting with somebody, and the person told me girls are actually better off when it comes to issues of sex education, because the aunties will have time to sort of educate these girls. What about the boy child? The uncles have no time to educate these boys, and that is where at the end of the day, we see the boy child messing, yet, and we also continue to blame them, necessarily without also blaming the girls too. And that is where at the end of the day, boys are being arrested for defilement. And yet some of these boys are even young boys themselves.
Me, I have developed my own slogan. Empowering a girl child is like you are empowering a nation. But empowering a boy child, you are empowering the whole generation.
Okay.
That's to me, because of late you see the emphasis has just been put on a girl child, as if we don't have a boy child. Let me put this one like, boy, let me say, are the boys not suffering like the ladies, or as like the girls? So it has to be in a balanced manner. And someone one time said, if we are not empowering the girls who are going to marry these ladies, of course we need to balance it when it comes to empowering the both sectors. That's what
Okay, that is where I also want to add on, Benson. I feel this is indeed true. Empowering the boy child, girl child alone, sorry, and neglecting the boy child is like having good women with bad husbands. This is what is going to happen in the future if at all we only put our emphasis on the girls alone. And most likely we are going to be having a generation that is involving and having bad men, but with good women. Because we did very little to empower the boys while they were still growing up. More of the emphasis was turned onto girls. That is how we are going to be also having a generation that is of good girls with bad husbands. It means we must do both. And this goes to all the stakeholders, for instance, the community members, the government, that our campaigns shouldn't only target the girl child alone. But today, most of the support is channeled towards the girl child. Let's look at the secondary education. When girls join the university, they already have a mark. But the boy child is left just like that. Today, when we talk about issues of equal opportunities, jobs, they will say, we want girls, women encouraged to apply, women should do this and that. What about the boy child? So I really feel there's a lot more that we are
leaving this one
in terms of also making sure that we empower every society. We shouldn't only empower the girls alone. We must empower everybody, and that is how, at the end of the day, we are going to be having a balanced society. And really, Benson, that is where I want to sort of leave that discussion aside as we get move on. Remember, we are running out of time, as we still have lots more to sort of discuss in there, and that is what we also are going to be looking out at. Where with this, the deputy speaker of parliament, that's Right Honorable Thomas, asking for a law to also really have also really artificial intelligence will be checked on. Today, Benson, many people are being pushed off the employment sector just because of the rise of artificial intelligence. Now, the deputy speaker of parliament, Thomas Taebwa, has sounded an alarm on the urgent need also really for a law of also to regulate the artificial intelligence in Uganda, citing the potential threats to society. And now he made the remarks while speaking at the symposium on data analytics of artificial intelligence. and data governance in Kampala, where they are able to emphasize that a law is crucial to enable harness their skills in sensitive AI areas, particularly ethics. Based on the rise of artificial intelligence is going to push out many people. This is a factor. And this is the truth on ground. Many people are going to be pushed out of the employment market. Because the work, that will be done by 5 people, and artificial intelligence, it can be done by 1 person.
And this is a law that has not been agreed upon, and that is yet to be implemented. Now the question, after him coming up with the proposal, now the question which is running in the minds of people right now is it going to be, will it work? Is it going to be implemented? And in case it happens so, what kind of repercussions is it going to bring? I think right now, this is what is running in the minds of people.
Okay? And that is where we expect regulations, first of all, also ready to also make sure that issues of relying on artificial intelligence, first of all, the use of cameras. Today, this is part of the artificial intelligence we're talking about. Work that used to be done by askaris, today is being done by artificial intelligence. Gates are today very much automated. No askari is controlling. That means job is lost. Based on this is indeed something which I feel government also needs to have a law on, because if at all government does not have this law, then many people are going to be pushed off the employment market, most especially the youth who are very much innovative, and those who have gone to schools, they wouldn't also really want to miss these opportunities, and I really feel government must also have this law to regulate on artificial intelligence, and that is where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside. Now, CSOs call for rationalization, that is of local government and parliament, and that is exactly what we are seeing, where the Uganda civil society organizations have urged the government to reassess its approach, that is the ongoing nationalization process, emphasizing the need, that is to prioritize local governments and parliament reforms to effectively also reduce taxpayers' expenses. And remember, Benson, today, as we are also talking about the rationalization, many of the private entities that were created have gone back under their ministry, mother ministries, and of recent, the one that did also go was Uganda Coffee Development Authority, that was also taken back under Ministry of Agriculture. And today, many people are talking about this, that also the rationalization must start away from Parliament. This is according to the CSOs, and recently the opposition leader of Parliament, Joel Senyo, also did ask rationalization to start away from State House. And that means many people are also talking about this, and that many saying also, as we are talking about saving taxpayers' money, then most of the areas should be tackled. And Mr. Julian Makunda, the executive director, that's the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, speaking to also the media in Kampala on Thursday, stressed the current also really focus on agencies as misguided, and that is exactly what we did see happening, where Mr. Makunda urged that rationalization should begin with local governments and parliament also, whereas the constituencies are also being created daily despite Uganda's lack of expansion. And this is exactly what you're saying, that new constituencies are being created. And in Ivory division, where you come from, many people are pushing out for more divisions to be created. Are we ready for this?
First of all, when you are coming up with a new thing, don't just implement it because of excitement, because of maybe coping mechanism tactics. So you first have to analyze it in a critical way.
But is it a good gesture for us to be merging these entities that are doing more or less the same activity? For instance, I want to give an example. We have UNRWA, Minister of Works. They are doing the same things. And then we have the local government, the local government is also doing their own roads. All this are doing the same thing. And then we had Uganda Coffee Development Authority. It is related to agriculture. And we have a mother minister of Agriculture and Animal Industries. Should we merge all this? This is having an implication.
Okay, just as an example, it's like bringing Kawai sleeping in the same house, and you are the husband there also. How will you be able to manage? If you can be able to, but in most cases it is difficult to manage. And these people, they have been operating in their own system, in their own ways. Now you are coming up with a motive that they should be merged together. First of all, you need to ask yourself of the reason as to why you are doing it like that. And of course, the effect of it to the public outside there. I think, to me, it may not work in all the sectors, but in some sectors it may work, but it will depend on how they will be understanding themselves, like these entities that are going to be merged together, how they will be understanding themselves. But it is going to take time, because for people to have that collective effort in terms of understanding, it's not an easy thing. I think, like, to me, I should say in summary, generally, in some sectors, it's going to work, but in some sectors, it may not work.
Okay, we hope also this will be working. At the end of the day, we expect all these mergers to start right away also from the top up to the grassroots, because at the end of the day, government has been spending a lot of monies paying these people, paying some of these entities. If at all, yes, indeed, the mergers are in the good move, then they must be implemented in the best format in there, because if at all we are being employed to do different things but the same tasks, then that is also more of duplication, and we expect also government to also come up and also address on some of those issues and to have some of these entities be merged in there, and that is where, Benson, we are leaving that discussion aside and looking at some of the stories. Mangu Cash lenders threatened Deputy Speaker Taebwa over stray loan is the last story that we are seeing, where the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Right Honorable Thomas Taebwa, has raised concern of exploitation and harassment by some online lending companies, urging also the authorities to investigate the sector's practices. And Mr. Taebwa's remarks follow a personal experience with an online money lender, that is Mangu Cash, which is shared also on social media, and in a post also on X, Mr. Taebwa also recounted receiving a call from a representative of the lender who allegedly also threatened financial action if he failed to also locate an unknown borrower who had listed him also as next of kin, and that is exactly what we are talking about. And yesterday, another money lender called me personally and was asking me to locate one of those persons who had borrowed money from them. And this is not the very first time. On several occasions, we have had these scenarios. Over time, people have called us. What do you say about these online money lenders?
First of all,
because you are being listed without your consent, and then the threats come to you.
You see,
have you ever received any call? Because me, this is the third time, if I'm not mistaken. It's the third time I'm being called to locate and also tell people to pay their monies.
It sounds funny, but also dangerous, because, you know, issues to be done with the money, they are not an easy thing. Like someone just calls you abruptly and says that you should find the money, or like,
tell this person to pay our money.
Tell the person to pay their money. And this is something, I don't know where the world is driving us, because for us, when we are still kids, we don't used to know much about these things. But technology is growing. But as it grows, as it keeps on expanding, changing, I think people of course will also have to be like, the best term I can use is, the people should of course have to be careful.
Does that speak of the no regulations within the sector? Most especially the financial sector. I feel there's something government has not done, because if this is how people have reached. Remember, this is the very first time we're having issues with the financial institutions. Recently, they were stopped from taking IDs as collateral. And now the issues of calling is something that is said to be rising.
I think the only thing I will say about concerning that issue is government, of course, will have to intervene into this one. Because what I know very well is these financial institutions, they are registered with government, and they do pay tax, they do pay revenue, and no one will deceive me that there is a financial institution that is operating without the knowledge of government. I think why I'm saying government, of course, will have to intervene into this one is, this is a financial institution that has registered with you. You know every detail from up to Z.
Bank of Uganda should have done a lot when it comes to regulating operations of these financial institutions. But today somebody gets money, the next time he's opening up a loan company without necessarily fulfilling some of those demands. And then we have Uganda Communications Commission. That is still to oversee the affairs of the communication line within the financial sector. Because, Benson, you really look at how embarrassing it is for you to be called, because sometimes they also go as far as sending you messages.
That's why I was saying that this is the right time for government to
and cause embarrassment to the clients who have borrowed the money, and that is how bad it is, and that is why, Benson, I wouldn't want to also encourage somebody whom I know to borrow money from another person, because imagine somebody of high caliber being called of also tell them to pay your monies back, because the person I was called of yesterday is actually a person of high integrity whom I could not sort of be that could have borrowed this money, but due to financial constraints, sometimes you go for loans. And at the end of the day, if this is kind of embarrassment clients are going through, then I feel the loan companies should be checked, and they should be also controlled, and the activities must be also dealt with.
There are some irregularities, of course, government will need to impose on them. Government, together with in collaboration with the Uganda Communication Commission, I think here it will work, because I believe, I still want to repeat my statement, There is no another financial institution, whether it is operating online or as in the premises, government doesn't know about.
Okay.
Government knows about all these people. I think if this is the case, where it has reached, the extent where it has reached.
And Benson, really the issue is that what most critics are saying is that these people have been operating without the streamlining of the activities. Benson, somebody lists you without your consent as next of kin, gives your number in there only to be called. But most sometimes when you even call this people, they will tell you that I did not give you a number amongst the list of kins. I did not list your name. So where do these people get our numbers?
That's
where
why
they get our numbers, start calling us to
that's
tell.
why I was saying that UCC, of course, will also come into this one in collaboration with the government. Technology is advancing, and people are also advancing. While others are advancing with the technology, others are still illiterate. So you will never convince me by saying that a poor farmer from the village to say this one, who is digging, who is earning through garden work, will be able to cope up with all the techniques concerning technology.
Okay.
So most of these people target people who are not all that, who are not.
Remember, Benson, when you are to borrow this money, they are the ones who send you this message. Hello, customer, you qualify to do this. You qualify to borrow this amount of money under this and that. But paying this money, my dear, is really hard. And that means for those who have had experience, definitely you know why you wouldn't also want to go back and borrow this money again. And those who have received the calls, definitely know how embarrassing it is for the clients who go on borrowing this money. But of course, we're not discouraging them. Those who know they will be able to pay this money timely, you can continue with your activity. But those who know they will not also get the money to pay timely, then be ready to encounter such also really issues of your colleagues being called, of also really your relatives being called to pay the monies. And that is how dangerous and how embarrassing it can turn out to be. Because, Benson, if you look at also the issues of money borrowed online, there's what we call online fraud. People are being cheated online because you borrow 40,000, but you end up paying 50,000. You end up paying 60,000. After finishing the loan's payment, you continue paying. That is what we call digital fraud, and that is exactly something happening. And I really want to say government should come out and also check out the operations on some of these financial institutions, and that is how.
Another way that can be done to calm the situation might be organizing lectures concerning that financial literacy. And who are supposed to organize the lectures is supposed to be the financial institutions together with the government representatives in the sector of that, in the sector of finance. You organize and you lecture people about them, whether it be online, whether it be physical like this. So once you lecture people about them, at least it can also calm down the situation. But once you just leave it to go like that, yeah, we have just given 2 or 3 examples, but each and every day, each and everywhere, it's happened in the country.
Okay, that is exactly where we are going to be leaving the discussion aside. But just to add on it a little, let's also really government come out with policies of addressing the operations and streamlining the activities of some of these financial institutions. Because if this is how they have gone, to the extent of calling people who list their names as guarantees, or maybe as people who stand for them, then that is how it is also going to be very much dangerous. Because at the time of borrowing this money, it is confidential. But at the time of demanding this money, it is no longer confidential. They keep on calling everybody. They keep on sending messages to everybody, and that is how embarrassing it can be. And this is also really where with this, the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable, that is the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, also really coming out and also really sharing his experience, of course, which I believe many people have been going through silently, but that is also really how painful it is, and that is where we expect those who are into this business must also really make sure that they also draw other means of recovering this money, because sometimes it becomes quite embarrassing. Let's put ourselves in their shoe as we get to move on in the next few seconds. Let's be loan recovery agents. What strategy do you think will work for them? Because we are now talking about others. What about them who are into that business? Because it is business. At the end of the day, if people borrow money and they don't want to return it back, it will also really be quite embarrassing for them to recover this money back. To me, because this is money borrowed without any security. How do you think they should also be in position to recover their monies.
To me, the best way is for them to get into collaboration with the UCC, Uganda Communication Commission, because if you take a look at the system of how they operate, mostly they operate online, and the online part of it is 70% of it is actually making phone calls.
Okay.
And phone calls are always managed by Uganda Communication Commission. I think if they can have that collaboration with the UCC, it will help them along that area. And I also know very well that these people with whom they are operating, they have their SIM packs.
Okay.
They register.
Okay.
I think involving UCC into this one, and also maybe NIRA, you know the person to whom you have lent the money. This is the kind of the person. He is of this age category. There you will know that, okay, with this kind of person, I am right to go with the business, rather than like someone who is even 15 years of age.
Okay, Benson, as we are running out of time, I really want to say those who are in that business should be able to learn one thing, that is of having new means and tactics of regaining back their monies, because it is business. Some people are very stubborn. After borrowing money, they run away. Just like how Papa borrowed PDM money, just like how Papa borrowed the Myoga money. I think this strategy also would work out in terms of recovering the funds.
And what is that?
We'll take a short commercial break. When we return back, we shall be also expounding on that discussion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium, Channel 259 and Channel 246. Starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from a short commercial break, and we are into the final half of today's show, and also for the last edition of this week as well, Benson. We are coming closer to the end of the show, and that means we are going to be heading to the weekend. Over the weekend, so many issues, of course, continue to happen. We have possibly go for different activities in sports, in entertainment, in discourse, all in all, to also really celebrate sometimes with their relatives, and that is where, Benson, we are coming back, and most of the times, we've been having issues also in understanding some of those policies when it comes to taxation.
When it comes to taxation, and before actually we give the hint about taxation, you have mentioned something about the weekend. In fact, it has started today. Outings is starting today.
In a way, it started yesterday, actually.
And normal, when it is a weekend like this, and for football fans, their minds about football, but we will discuss about that one afterwards. Not the weekend itself, but about what has happened in the world of sports. Talking about the issue of taxation, first the fact remains so many masses outside there, they don't understand what taxation is, more especially people who are in rural areas, deep in the rural areas, with the exception of only very few. But you move to these urban centers, developed areas, at least people, 80%, they understand what taxation is, and they pay, because they are very aware that that's where government of course gets its money in layman's language, revenue. Now recently, stakeholders, different stakeholders, they have been sensitized about how, of course, we can be in position to improve on the issue of taxation, more especially local government. This is the kind of taxation you pay under local government, maybe district authorities, subsidiary authorities. And we have come to realize that so many people, of course, they ignore this one. And the biggest emphasis has been about rental tax. I don't
That
know.
is actually where I was coming to.
Rental tax. I don't know if you are aware that people also do pay taxes.
But Benson, let me ask, why must I pay taxes for houses are built using my own money?
So that is where the confusion part of it.
Because this is my land, and I've used my money to build this.
Okay. Let me bring it in this way. Yes, it is your land, right? And you have used your own money to construct the houses on that land. Then, why is it that the other people, like when you own a house, a rental house, that is a property, right? It is the same way as a person who is operating a business in a premises also, the assets, he or she is selling, those are also his or her property. And he or she gets money out of the property he's selling. And also the rentals you are possessing and you give to the tenants. It is also your property. And you also get money out of it. There is no difference between you and a person who is maybe operating a market, who is having the property in terms of those assets. That means, to me, I don't see it as a bad thing. And people, they are trying to run away from it. And others openly, they are saying that they don't understand, because this is something which has been newly implemented, and people are saying that they don't understand it, and the system of paying it, and what the money does, and so many stakeholders, of course.
Issues of paying rental tax has always been in there, and I've most of the times had engagements with Uganda Revenue Authority, where this issue keeps on coming up. Most of the tenants, most of the landlords seem not to be understanding this, and this is money paid annually by what we call the house owners. It is not every house that is paying this money, but house that brings in money, just like another business did mention in here. It could be a shop, and this is actually a business that is bringing money, and that is why government also really felt it important to tax them. And today we also have to pay this money back, because from the money you are charging out of the tenants, if you remove some portion to the government, that is also really, you are also contributing to the development of this country, because if you look at the security that this house is enjoying, it's government role. Today we have peace in the country. Where does this money come from? It is the money that is used for paying soldiers. It's the money that is used for paying police officers, and that is why we also say that we must also fulfill our obligation of paying taxes, because
if I may interject a bit, do you know the funny part of it? At the end, the pressure is going to come back on the tenants, because the landlord, whereas the landlady, will charge you according to the tax that has been assessed on him or her. For example, if he or she is charged maybe 15,000 per year, of course, the landlord, as the landlady, will not want to get into loss, will transfer that money on the tenants. Of course, you don't have house, you are renting. Obviously, you'll have to pay that money.
Okay.
So these are the things. First, I have come to realize that there are so many taxes which people do not know about.
Yes, tax education is actually what is causing problems between the taxpayer and taxman.
Another funny one is the taxes on marriage. And one thing
now,
which...
why would you charge on marriage?
So, taxes on marriage.
Okay, maybe first explain to us what this means, because somebody like me who is lay may not be understanding this, just like that person who is watching me from maybe War or in the Rigbo. First explain to that person
You see,
what this tax is all about.
You see, once you get married, officially married, I am not talking about the other kind of marriages in corridors. You officially married.
This is not for those who are cohabiting, but those who are married.
You officially married. It becomes more official when you have a marriage certificate.
Okay.
And that marriage certificate cannot come free. Of course, you will have to pay for the marriage certificate. That is one way of how you pay the taxes on.
Okay.
And also another thing is, like those other kinds of, when it now goes extreme, weddings, what? You have to pay tax. Okay. And also the funny thing about it is, someone asked, does the clergy know about the taxes on?
Okay.
How much are they involved? How much are they involved? How do they assess?
Okay.
Do they assess according to the size of the husband or the
capacity?
Capacity rather. That is the best term. Capacity of the couples, or is what? So it was in a fun way, but that is the fact.
You know, the issues of registration of marriages in Uganda has been having issues. Of late, it has been moved. That is from URSB. That's NITA, because URSB used to be the sole body responsible for registration of marriages. But today, we have seen it being moved to NITA Uganda. And that is also something where people are being also required to pay money for.
And finally, someone...
marriages which are legal. Because oftentimes, Benson, religious institutions, you asked if a clergy are being involved. But we have also seen clergy at one time also signing the marriage certificates.
And the level of assessment is not even revealed. And finally, someone asked, who is government to come and tax me on my wife? Are you the one who looked for me, the wife? So those kind of, but they sound funny, but the reality is they are happening in villages. So that is the latest development we can give you as far as...
You know, the issues of taxation must not only come with issues of fine, also paid amount of money, enforcement. Uganda Revenue Authority has developed 3 strategies. We have seen them also talk about this: educate, engage, and enforce.
But do you know
and that is why we expect them to go back on ground in terms of community barazas, in terms of also talk shows, to make sure the ordinary person whom they're targeting to also milk from understands why he must pay these taxes. Because if I am paying something I'm not understanding, then I'm going to pay it with a lot of pain. And how can they make citizens understand they have to pay the money? This is what government needs to do. Let people see the value for their money.
Exactly.
If it's social services, let people see the schools thriving. Health sector, let the health facilities have medicine all times. Let the road sector be developed. With that, people are going to be having ease in terms of paying the taxes, and at the end of the day, people are going to be paying taxes with a lot of restrictions. But if the road sector is a bit how it is, people are going to be finding challenges in terms of paying taxes.
First, the fact is a local person deep from the village, when you don't explain these kind of things to him or her, people, like you have said, people want to see the value of what they are paying for. Once you don't sensitize them, this is the amount you are supposed to pay, and this is the sector it is going to, obviously people are going to run away. And the fact remains, most of the URA officials, I only see them in urban centers. I don't think they go deep in the villages, gather people, sensitize them about this. But
you know, that's when sometimes also release operate under difficult situations, because the money they collect, it is not them that uses it. This money is taken to Parliament, where Parliament has to appropriate it. This goes to this, and this amount is supposed to be going this. And remember, recently we did see Uganda government releasing the projections for the next financial year budget, which also did see a drop in. And this is where, Benson, we are going to be finding challenges. because the projections for this year, for the next financial year, because right now government is doing what we call next financial year budget development, where they're engaging all the stakeholders, and it's still at the initial stages because we are just into a new financial year, but the next financial year also already, the development have already begun. But we have seen a drop, and that means Uganda Revenue Authority will have to engage more gears in terms of collecting the taxes, and more of that money, of course, is going to be coming from the citizens, given the fact that today we have seen a cut in terms of the money we are receiving in form of donations, and that also has an implication on our budget. Where will that leave the citizens at? And how do you think is going to be also impacting on the citizens who are to pay these taxes, given the fact that today people find a lot of hardship, where people find a lot of resistance in paying the taxes, people find a lot of pain in terms of still paying their taxes. Benson, do you find it convenient? Do you love paying taxes as an individual?
To me, one funny thing I've been observing is, unfortunately, as fortunately, but the unfortunate part of it goes to the taxpayers. They are not informed of what the money is going to be used for. Much as we are all aware that this money is going to the
because it's not the tax collector that is using this money. Its beauty is just duties to collect and hand over.
That is what the people expect right from the collection point. Okay, you are collecting the money, or maybe they expect the person, the collector, like, okay, we are collecting this money, it's going to work in this sector. But that's not the way to go. That's why we are seeing people resisting.
Okay.
But why some people, they are running away from taxation is, much as we are saying that this money at the end comes back to us in different forms of services, some people still, they will not believe, more especially illiterate people. However much you talk about it to the person, still the person cannot understand.
Okay, leaving that discussion about taxation aside, let's look at what's happening in health, where public also has been questioned against rushing the traditional health operatives. That is what we call the native doctors, for also treatment. That is as we are seeing signs of mpox raging, and that is where, Benson, I also want to also talk to you about the same, where stakeholders and authorities in public health have also warned the public against seeking mpox treatment from traditional healers or herbalists. Instead, also the officials asked the people to also return emphasis on visiting government hospitals or health facilities for diagnosis and treatment. And based on today, mpox, what others call ngulwa, locally here, is also really happening. And this disease is actually said to be emerging from also the neighboring country of DRC, which we, of course, we are neighboring to. And at the end of the day, Benson, we are going to be also facing challenges, but we not also really educate the people about signs and causes of mpox, where we are seeing rashes, but we can also be able to avoid this by avoiding touching of surfaces that can be also really be also infected, and then still also really keeping distance and also really keeping away from people who would also be having symptoms, and above all, visiting the health facilities for treatment. And best, so that is as far as how we can also be able to avoid ourselves from contracting the disease. And above all, Benson, if you also want to avoid mpox, keep distances also of coming closer, and wash your hands regularly with clean water and soap. And that is according to the directive also that have been put up in place
you have dissolved everything.
Issues of mpox. Mpox remains a great concern, and remember, this disease also has its own engagements and also has its own impacts, where it can actually lead to disability of the eye, where you can become blind if you not also treat it, and then it can also lead to loss of life. But in most cases, having to keep away from close contact is what causes this. Because recently we had an engagement of also really medical experts, so Minister of Health, who told us that mpox cannot even be controlled by mere putting of condom. That means it is more risky than HIV and other sexual transmitted diseases, and that is what we also need to talk to people about sexually, how it can also be sexually transmitted. Means that also the condom cannot also be enough to protect you, because if you look at those people who are said to be also really at risk of contracting this disease, the people who are also really said to be in transit, most especially the drivers. Just like COVID-19, they will also be able to have the risk of having also this disease. And then the sexual workers are actually said to also be at risk of still contracting this disease, and that is where we did see Philemon Kabagambe from World Health Organization recalled past incidents such as Ebola in Kansanga, where patients initially sought help from witch doctors or with dire consequences, and that is where we are now seeing and also telling these people in the next few minutes that they should desist from such practices.
In fact, you have dissolved everything, the causes, the way of how we can prevent it, its impact. But, you know, deep in the villages, in rural areas, people, they cannot listen. Sorry to say this. And in most of the villages, people do share things. Like, let me say, sports, people go down in the valley, they bathe together, they shower together, they share the sports. So at the end, an illiterate person will not be in position to identify the signs, whereas the symptoms of...
and remember in early stages, this disease also really may not be able to show.
Yeah, exactly. So this one now calls for the health officials to at least reach in those remote areas such that people who are illiterate can also be in position to know about this. Because me, I still believe, I moved to villages and I come from a village. People, for them, they cannot be bad of these things. Like you are sour and you ask for sponsors from this one. And when this one says, no, there is this disease called mpox, we are not allowed to share things like sponsors. We'll say this one is. So those kind of things, I think they will have to reach to remote areas such that everyone is informed of what is going about the disease itself.
Okay, Benson, as we are getting to move on, as always, we summarize the discussions what's happening in the world of sports. Remember, Feta Emmanuel is preparing to come up on board. But the excitement yesterday, where we want to begin up our discussions right away, is Uganda qualifying for AFCON edition, the next edition, with 2 games to go. What do you say about this?
Uganda,
because yesterday we were able to see South Sudan doing it for Uganda by also really beating, that is Congo, in a 5-goal thriller. What is about that?
Uganda Cranes qualifying for the next AFCON. It looks a surprising thing, but to me it's not a surprise. Why am I saying this one? It's not a surprise because you look at the countries Uganda had been pitted in Group K. South Africa, a team that of late has been like Uganda, not keeping consistency in the tournament. South Sudan is still a new entry into the competition. You talk about Congo Brazzaville, unlike their brothers DRC. General, that has been an average group. That's why it's not a surprising thing to me seeing Uganda qualifying. And the surprising thing comes in this way. Uganda, for a longer period of time, they have also not been into the competition. Getting back is a good thing. But
so
now,
should we put the credit to Pop, that's football?
Yeah, the credit must go.
The head coach of Uganda Cranes.
Yeah, the head coach of Uganda Cranes. But to me, Uganda Cranes qualifying for AFCON is like having teams like Brest qualifying for UEFA Champions League. At the end, they will not do anything.
So that is what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't think they will go very far.
What do you think about the game that is remaining, where Uganda will be taking on that's South Africa?
I think
Should
Uganda...
we top the group because already we have qualified, or we should just surrender the remaining 2 games?
No, you don't have to surrender in sports anyhow.
Okay.
First of all, they are just going to honor the game for prestige and to maintain the record. It's a funny game.
But is it good for us to top the group? Because somebody was able to tell me that if Uganda tops the group, then we are going to be also really in an easier group.
Yeah, that's what actually they are fighting for. But they already through.
But do you think it's possible for Uganda to get that 1 point against South Africa?
It is me. I'm looking for a draw in this game.
Okay.
I'm looking at a draw in this game.
Okay. And yesterday we were able to see South Sudan beating Congo Brazzaville in a 5-goal thriller and in action-packed game that was at Juba National Stadium. South Sudan edged Congo 3-2 in Group K to secure their first points of qualifying in the campaign. And that is exactly what we did see. And now the home side showed resilience, overturning a 2-1 defeat. That's defeat also in the initial stages of the game. But the game ended. That is also 3-2 in there. And many people, we are also putting the praise of this game to Bida Ezra of Onduparaka Football Club, who is playing in Uganda.
The good thing is South Sudan, they had not been having a point, I think. Going out of a tournament without having a point is not a good thing. I think they fought for it, and it has worked for them. Now with the 3 points, it's something not easy for one of the newly born countries we have in Africa. And also, Faris bringing it down in Uganda still. FIFA Big League is still going on. Matches we have an international break. And teams from West Nile, they are performing very well. Interestingly, the team of Paida Black Angels is the only team in the league. Matches they are not on top of the log, which is still unbeaten. And they have 9 points, and they have played less games than the teams that they are sitting on top of them. And also the team of Calvary, they on form yesterday. They also had a game with the second place team on the log, Boma, which ended in a draw. On the parquet is also, that means from position 2 up to position 5, been occupied by the teams from West Nile region, with the exception of only one. That's a Rock Hill Sports
But
Club.
Royal moved to Northern Uganda. Should we still say that they are still?
But
they
then
moved to actually. Should we still call them aside from West Nile?
No, they are still.
Much as they're from Northern Uganda.
They are still from West Nile because the name Warua. If they want it to be that side, let them change the name to be Guru Hill. So
okay.
We still treat them under.
Okay, that is it in terms of also the sports. We are wishing all the teams in Northern Uganda the very best, and we hope come next season at least one side from Northern Uganda, be it Blacks Power, be it Royal Sports Club, be it Mythical Calvary, either by the Black Angels or the Paraka Football Club will be able to make it to the StarTimes Uganda Premier League next season, and that is exactly what we are praying for. And we hope at the end of the day that this will becoming a reality, because we are seeing them competing, we are seeing them doing very well. Because if you look at all the sides, I must say they are not doing badly off. All the sides are trying, much as others are still on the tail. But we hope they will be bouncing back, and we are wishing them the very best. And Benson, as we come towards the end of the show, remember so many stories going to happen where we talk about the StarTimes Uganda Premier League, which of course is in break. We shall be seeing them returning in action. That's on the 20th, that is next week. And we hope we are getting closer also to see the teams that will be also really tussling it out. Because if you look at the competition right now, it's between KCA, we have Vipers, and the stubborn side, Neck Football Club, also is struggling to make sure that they top the log. But of course, we are keenly following up, and we want to see which side, of course, will be declared winners of the StarTimes Premier League for the season. That's 24-25, and that is exactly what we are pushing out for. And more details of what's happening in the world of sports, remember, I will be coming through on the whistle time from 2 to 3 p.m. with Owen Ezaga and Linda Susie. And with that, we come to the end of today's show, and we shall be bouncing back again on Monday, that is next week. We want to wish you the very best. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy responsibly. For those who want enjoyment, please be mindful of others out there, and that would also really spare you from having troubles. And there, Besson, I want to wink, and also in a special want to thank my crew. That is the cameraman, that is Senior Jonah, and also not forgetting the producer, Senior Boniface. And up next is the Eras and News Bulletin with Fateh Manuel. I'm a Padra Sani, I'm an Amedika Savler Srini.